Hey guys, Brad Clark here, Chris Buzzelli. We are wellness coordinators with Tri-Health Corporate Health, and we are going to go over a push day workout for you guys. All right, so the first exercise that we are going to do for our push day workout is the bench press. We're going to go over some things here that maybe you've heard before, but maybe you haven't. As far as Chris's starting position on the bench, he is basically lined up with the bar directly over his eyes. What that's going to do is it's going to make it easy enough for him to get it off the rack, but also give him plenty of clearance from the rack itself to do his exercise. So Chris, why don't you go ahead and grab the bar for me. Now, as far as hand position goes, everybody is going to be a little different. You can go a little wider, you can go a little more narrow. The general rule of thumb is the more narrow that you go, the more you're going to use your triceps on the move. The wider you go, the more it's going to be a little bit of the outer chest and a little bit more shoulders. The bench press is a compound movement that is a mix of everything in the chest, the shoulders, and the triceps. So playing with the grip is a great way to target certain parts of those muscle groups. The one thing you want to do when you're finding your grip on most bars, take this hand off for me, Justin, if you can get in there. Most bars are going to have these rings and what we call the knurling. This part of the bar that's real rough is the knurling. There's usually going to be a ring in there. So make sure that when you grab the bar, you're using those rings to stay balanced on both sides. So if Chris puts his pinky on the ring on that side, he's going to put his pinky on the ring on this side, and that's going to keep the bar nice and balanced in his hand so there's not more weight on one side or the other. Now, as Chris is setting up here on the bench, there's two things that you want to have real tight on the bench because it's going to give you a real good lifting platform. Number one is his shoulder blades. Now you can't see it because he's laying on them obviously. But what Chris has done here is you can see the chest is raised up a little bit. That's because his shoulder blades have pinched together on his back. What that's going to do is it's going to give him a whole lot more access to the muscle mass on his chest. It's going to help give him a better platform to press from. And it's going to make him a little bit stronger. The other thing is the back side is nice and clenched as well. The bench press is a total body move. A lot of guys just want to lay there and just start moving the bar. It is a total body move. And by having his backside clenched and these feet tucked a little bit, what he's able to do is drive his body down into the bench and get a little extra push on the bar. Now, generally what you'd want to do with the bench press is you would have a spotter behind you, obviously. But because I'm talking, I'm not going to be back there. What he's going to do in order to lift this bar is he's just going to extend the arms. Go ahead and push those arms. And now he's going to kind of move it out over his body. Okay. So we're going to talk about bar path for the bench press. If you remember the squat in the leg day video, the bar path was very straight up and down. The bar path for the bench press is not like that. It's a little bit more angled. So as you can see at the very top of the move, the bar is going to be resting pretty much over Chris's shoulders. As he lowers it down, go ahead and take it just to the bottom and then stop. As he takes it to the bottom, it's going to be out lower on his body than his shoulders. So what we're looking for with the bar path in the bench press is a little bit of an angle here. So go ahead and press it up. So as he comes up, it's going to work up and back. The reason for that is just because of how your shoulders work. Now, that angle is going to be a little bit less pronounced depending on how wide or how narrow your hands are. If your hands are very narrow on the bar, it's going to hit a little bit lower. If your hands are a little bit wider, it's going to hit a little bit higher. It's different for everybody, but the key is, go ahead and take it to the bottom again. The key is that notice that Chris's forearms stay underneath the bar the whole time because this is where his force is coming out. If he wanted to do this, go ahead and mess with the bar a little bit, let it roll back. You'll see some people who want to let the bar roll back and then they press up. All you're doing is wasting energy here. Make sure the forearms are staying underneath the bar the whole way. As far as depth for the bench press, we are looking for a touch. So as Chris brings it down, it's clearly touching on his chest. Now, I know some people have some shoulder issues. What I would encourage people to do with shoulder injuries or shoulder pain, you can go ahead and rack it if you want. Now, if you've got shoulder pain or previous injuries, it can be hard to hit that depth. What I recommend is take weight off the bar, go super light, and see if you can hit all the way down to the chest and back up again without that pain. Again, we want to avoid training in a short range of motion. Short range of motion training just increases our strength imbalances, and strength imbalances create injuries themselves. So if you find that you still cannot get all the way down, or say your doctor has recommended that you not go all the way down when doing any kind of a pressing activity, one thing you can do is take a yoga block or some kind of other object that's flat, let it sit on the chest, and then take the bar down to that object to make sure that you're hitting the depth that you can and want to hit that way. Chris, why don't you do a couple of more? Good. Okay, so now Chris has finished his set. What we're going to do is we're going to rack the bar. Very similar to the advice that we gave with the squat. I don't want him kind of searching for the pins with the bar. All he's going to do is he's going to make sure that his arms are extended. He's going to rotate the shoulders back until that bar hits the back of the rack, and then he drops it into the hooks. It's a much safer way to do it. The last thing you want to do, go ahead and demonstrate looking for the pins. The last thing you want to do is start looking for the pins like that. Just rotate your shoulders straight back, let the bar hit the rack, and you're done. A few notes on the bench press before we move on to the next thing. This is another one of our 4x5 set and rep schemes. So again, you're going to be working with high weight. Make sure that you're taking an ample amount of rest between those sets. 2 to 3 minutes is fine, to be honest. You want to make sure that you have enough energy to go ahead and press the bar with full force. As far as breathing goes throughout the reps of the bench press, there's a couple of schools of thought. I'll let Chris go over his, and then I'll go over mine.
So my school of thought is trying to breathe between each set. So once you re-rack that weight, it's sitting above your chest, you take a deep breath in. This fills your chest up with air, creates a lot of tension. It also shortens that range of motion a little bit so you don't have to come down as far. Now you're going to hold that breath as you bring that weight down to your chest, and then as you push up, you explode or expunge that air from your lungs as you drive forward to kind of create some extra force. So it's going to sound and look something like this. That's how I drive it up.
Your other option, of course, is to hold your breath throughout the full range of motion. We refer to this as the Valsalva maneuver. Essentially what that does is it fills our chest cavity with air, thus protecting the spine and some of the harder structures of our body because it's a little bit more firmed up. Either one is fine. Play with both and see which works best for you. One more thing I want to touch on is spotting and failing with the bench press. If you're somebody who's watching this video as a spotter, the keys to remember there are to make sure you stay underneath the bar and do not assist the lifter until the bar starts to travel downwards. We don't want to ruin somebody's set by giving them help that they don't need. If you're alone in your bench pressing as the lifter, one thing that I would recommend is keep the safety clips that you'll see sometimes on the bar off of the bar so that just the weight is sitting there freely. If you get stuck with the bar over top of you at the bottom, all you'll have to do is simply rotate the bar to the side, let the weight drop off due to gravity. The other side of the bar will come down, that weight will drop off, and then you can move it. It's very loud, but you'll be safe. And it's important that we're working with heavy enough weights to cause growth in the body. If you're scared of failing, and so you're not using heavy weights, then you're just never going to get stronger. So those are our closing notes on the bench press. We're going to move on to the next exercise.
Okay, so our next exercise we're going to follow is the overhead press. This is another debatable compound movement, but it's primarily targeting our shoulders here. You're going to incorporate a lot of your core as well as a little bit of your legs, but we'll touch on that later here. So Brad's going to walk up to the rack, similar to how we would with the squat and the bench press. Bar position is key. So as you can see here, the bar is in line with just above his chest, about his collarbone area. He's going to get underneath the bar and he's going to use his legs to take it off the rack and take a small step back. Now, that's the last time his legs are going to be involved. Now is where his shoulders kick in. So he's going to, why don't you just do a couple sets for us so people can see what we're working with here. Perfect. So as you can see, hand position is very similar to the bench. You want to grab something nice and balanced on each side, a little bit wider than shoulder width, but still support it. Now as he presses up slowly, you can see that his head moves underneath the bar comes back and finishes behind his ears. As it goes back down, right back to that starting position. We've touched on bar position before with several other exercises. Now this one is another one where instead of going in that straight or linear line, we're going to have a little bit of an arcing motion to it. So it starts in front of his face, he starts to push up, and it finishes behind his ears, well above his shoulders, fully supported. Now there's two trains of thought here. As he's warming up with just the bar, maybe some lighter weights, he can come all the way down to his collarbone for a full range of motion before he presses his next set. However, as he gets a little bit heavier, and as you will too, it is okay to come all the way up and then to come down in a shorter range of motion, stopping just about his chin, lips, maybe even nose level before he goes right back up again. This allows a lot more of the tension to stay in the shoulders and puts a little less impingement on that full range of his shoulders if you were to go all the way down. If you want to rack it for a second. Now we're going to go through this again one quick time. Hands are balanced on each side, legs are taken out of it, shoulders come up. You can notice that rotation of those shoulders as they come back, locking at the top, all the way back down. Good. All right, go ahead and rack it. So now this one we're going to do 3 sets of 8. So it's a little different than the 4x5 that we talked about before. A little bit more reps just because we'll probably be doing a little bit lighter weight, targeting those shoulders, getting that greater muscle growth in those shoulders. We're going to rest at 60 to 90 seconds as we've talked about before. That adequate rest in between each is going to allow us to generate more force each time, which will ultimately lead to hopefully more muscle growth.
All right, the next move we're going to talk about here is the incline dumbbell chest press. Now, there's a lot of carryover from the flat bench press. A lot of the same rules apply. The big things that I want to talk about here are the setup and how to start with the move. For the incline press, we're looking for a bench that's going to be right around 45 degrees elevated. And then the seat, if you can, go ahead and tilt that up too, because we want to keep a nice 90-degree angle or somewhere around that between the back of the bench and the seat portion. Now when Chris goes to start this move with the dumbbells, this is how we want to start most chest press exercises with dumbbells. He's got the weight resting on his knees. As he rolls back flat onto the bench, he's going to kick that weight up with his knees. If you're alone and you don't have a spotter who can help you get started, this is a much better way to start the weight than, go back to the beginning for me, than him laying down on the bench and then trying to drag the weight up his body to get to the start. As you get to heavier weight, that's not going to happen. So this move we can do with dumbbells or with the barbell. We're showing you with the dumbbells. If you prefer to use the barbell, you're welcome to. We could easily put the bar up here and just slide this back a little bit further. But as I said, most of the same rules are going to apply as did with the bench press. He's got his shoulder blades tight, his backside tight, his feet are kind of tucked. All he's going to do is press the weight straight up. There's going to be a little bit of that angle going backwards, and then bring him back down. The benefit to doing the incline chest press along with the bench press is that this is going to target a little bit more of the shoulder area and a little bit more of just the upper chest. So it's just a different angle, a little bit different target of the same muscle groups that we're already hitting in this press day. As far as how he holds the weight, it's completely up to him. I like to see the dumbbells turned a little bit like this. It's a little more ergonomic. It's a little more comfortable for most people. Whatever you do and however you hold the dumbbell, the key again, as we've talked about before, is making sure that this forearm, this line of force stays perpendicular to the floor. So as he presses up, go ahead and press up for me. Notice how that stays perpendicular to the floor all the way through the move. Now when he's done, what he's going to do is go ahead and tuck his elbows into his sides, and then he's essentially going to reverse curl the weight down to the ground or to his knees, whatever you prefer. As you get heavier, do it as though those were like super heavy weights and go ahead and let them drop. So let's say he finishes with really heavy weight. At the bottom of the move, tucks the elbows and just lets them drop to the ground. Okay, for the incline chest press, you're going to do 3 sets of 10 reps. And we're going to look for that 60 to 90 second rest in between. And we'll move on to the next exercise for you. All right, the next exercise we're going to go over here is bench dips. If you have a dip rack, the ones that are standing with the bars heading straight out, you can use those as well. Same rules are going to apply for both of them, but this is pretty common. If you have a bench, you can do these. What Chris is going to do is he's going to grab onto the bench with his fingers resting over the side. He's going to go ahead and lift his butt up off the bench. You can do these with bent legs or straight legs. Straight legs is preferable. They're a little bit more difficult, but you can also do them this way as well. Go ahead and do straight legs. Make it hard, Chris. So, as we see, Chris is going to lower himself down. The point at which he's going to stop is basically 90 degrees in the elbow. What we're doing for this exercise is 3 sets by max reps. So Chris would essentially do this until he can't do any more. Again, as with a lot of these push exercises we've talked about, notice the forearm, it's a line of force. It is perpendicular to the surface that he is pressing against. Now let's say Chris was done, he can't possibly do any more. There's a few ways to fail here. He can either drop out if he's close enough to the floor, or the preferable way is like he just did. Bring those feet back in, tuck them up underneath of you, and then go ahead and raise yourself back up to the bench. Again, like I said, we're doing this for 3 sets of max reps. This is your final exercise of your push day. So go ahead and take yourself all the way to failure. When you get done, we're only resting about 30 to 60 seconds here because this is pretty light. You're just using body weight. If you want to modify it later because you're doing a lot of reps, you've just gotten too strong, you can take a dumbbell and set it up on your lap. Other than that, that is the end of your push day workout.